Good evening. I have managed to negotiate an extra minute from the 12 to 13 for a specific reason. And if you don't get it at the end of the talk, come up and I'll tell you the secret. So I'd like to ask a question. How many of you here are actively pursuing your bliss? No surprises. How many of you know it? Okay. How would you feel if you knew that your bliss had a shape? If you knew that your fullest potential, the reason you're here, your deepest purpose, your most sacred dream, how would it feel to know that that has a shape? It has a form. It has a pattern. It's energy and information taking a shape, which is the shape of your best future, your fullest potential. It's a cymatic pattern that acts as the ultimate GPS. It's calling to you, it's guiding, it's asking you to become and embody it. That feels good. What if you were to know that that same pattern could be used to create a building in which you live, you work, in which you make love, in which you're prepared to die consciously? How would it feel if you knew that the earth, the living planet beneath our feet that's permeating our very being, our essence, if that too had a deepest purpose, if she too had a shape, a form, a pattern? So this is a fractal relationship, a possibility that who we are, what's calling to us to become, and the living planet, that can be shared and seen and felt, that can literally inform who we are and who we need to become. This is my passion, to be able to evoke and invite certain specific patterns of people, individuals, collections, and large groups, to see what pattern wishes to form the matrix of their manifestation. So what I want to share with you is my passion and it is my practice. And I cannot stand here and claim it's science. Some of the components that make it up have their rooted understanding in some science for sure. But for me, I'm offering a possibility for you to open to, a potential that I feel and know to be real, and I invite you to be aware of that also. Most of us spend 90% of our time inside a built structure. And unless we've had the unique and beautiful opportunity to design and create that consciously, we're going to be living inside somebody else's idea, somebody else's dream, somebody else's projection. And for the most part, the buildings that we inhabit and work in, that we sleep and seek to create a sacred connection with others within, these buildings are projections to a large extent of fear. I know it's a dramatic word to use, but in this context, the fear of not enough energy to heat it, not enough materials to finish it, not enough access to what we need. What would happen if we were able to create a space that not only was the shape and the form and the volume of that pattern which makes us feel most alive, but it's also extremely beautiful. It's stimulating us, it's inspiring us and others, everyone that comes there, and that it doesn't lack for anything. So this wasn't an overnight understanding. When I started architecture college in Dublin in the early 80s, I naively imagined and assumed that it was only a matter of a few short weeks at most before the tutors chose to embark this arcane, timeless, beautiful knowledge on me. I didn't realize that this isn't known, it's not taught. It would have been an integral aspect of the ancient mystery schools, yes. How do things get created? How is energy and form dancing together to create life? But it wasn't. I waited some months, still no insight, still no deep inspiration. I wasn't angry, I was just a little confused. Maybe I wasn't ready. So at the same time that I began the architecture school, I also started a Japanese martial art. Wonderful teacher who was teaching and guiding us to learn how to move our body from one place to another, effectively carrying an intention. an intention to deliver a message across a distance, to achieve a result, a goal, a dream becoming real. And it became very obvious and very clear that as we move, how we move is affecting the result. Our ability to deliver the message or to receive the results and the benefit of that movement is impaired by tension, by not being able to move and flow freely. So to me, it seemed to make sense that maybe the same is true with design, with architecture, with the manifestation of space. So I looked at it this way: what would need to be in play for you to arrive at an end result, at the optimal, best remembered future of a space? Because I firmly believe, and it is my direct experience, that space is conscious. Buildings have an awareness. They have a living soul, a living energy that we relate to. So what would it take to be part of a process that would allow that soul to be embodied? What resistance would we need to become aware of and to resist? What ego, what limits, what factors and conditions and elements would stop us being able to deliver this beautiful end result? Because beauty can be defined as a situation or a state where nothing can be added or taken away except for the worst. So within this context, I began to understand that we need to go back to a natural, relaxed state, not a prepared stance, a natural Tai Chi, for lack of a better description, a Tai Chi state that allows us to receive what needs and wishes to become. So, how to know? This cannot be exclusively an intellectual process. In reverse, the intellect should be used as a tool to navigate information that's going to be felt. So, I studied Feng Shui, Vastu Shastra, sacred geometry, developed a bit of a reputation, relatively positive, for applying this. In the 30 years of practice, I've designed and seen built over 500 buildings in 17 countries. So this isn't science. It's an opportunity for me to experience the feedback directly from the land, the people, the neighbors, the inhabitants, and seeing what works and what doesn't. So in that time, I believed, perhaps arrogantly, but not so consciously arrogantly, that I was getting an understanding. But then 5 years ago, everything changed. I had a series of life experiences that were wholly unprecedented. And in effect, I lost everything. And in that losing was a deep getting. Because there's a great expression, if you're falling off a cliff, you might as well try to fly. You know? So it was in that mindset and in that heart set that I said, there's something missing in my understanding. There's something profoundly not filling my awareness, not allowing me to serve to the full extent of my potential, my capabilities. And an aspect and a key catalyst in this time of change took the form of a meeting with a most remarkable woman from the Czech Republic, who had not a word of English and I not a word of Czech. But when we met, we knew that we had to do something together. And we did, and we continued to do so. So this woman and I were asked to do some seminars in Ecuador 4 years ago. And these seminars were personal development, they were using her ability to feel the field and to know what needs to shift and change, and my ability to formulate that, not just into a sequence of movements, but into patterns that we created, huge patterns made out of thousands and thousands of crystals that participants in these events would move through and experience a major shift in their energetic awareness, an upgrade as such. So, when we went to a piece of land that a client had asked us to connect with and build something on. And, well, asked me, because she wasn't a designer, that wasn't our understanding. So when we arrived there in the jungle, the client had cleared some area. Immediately my friend took off her shoes and socks and she went down. And she stayed down for almost an hour, not moving. It was as if she wasn't there at all. The client freaked out a little bit, what's going on? I freaked out as well, but of course I couldn't show that. I said, no, this is normal, this is the process, you know. Everything's fine, really. So she, after about an hour, she stood up, not quite sure herself what was happening. And in her rudimentary English, which has subsequently got much better, she uttered one word: wind. And the moment she said it, a huge wind came. The leaves started shaking in the palm trees, birds started dive bombing, the client nearly had a heart attack. And we thought, what's going on? Something was going on, but we didn't know what. So I said, no, this is perfectly normal, just go with it. So we eventually made our way back. The deal was that in a few weeks' time I would get settled, I'd do some sketches for this lady. But during the night I started receiving images, very clear patterns of information and energy, designs in effect. So I got up and I started drawing furiously on every available piece of paper I had. Some hours later, this lady, my friend, she came out and she casually passed by and said, "That's wrong," and put the kettle on for a cup of tea. So I was sitting there, who's the architect here, but she came over and I had just enough awareness not to take it personally. There was something going on, I felt it. So she came over and she said, "It can't be like this, it must be more open. This must be more this way." So as I sketched furiously and ripped up some bits and sketched again, after 3 intense hours, it was done. We had about 50 sheets of paper. The client came unexpectedly, said, "What's all this?" Something. They looked at it and they said yes, and they built it without one change. I'm counting my extra minute, hold on. So we said, what's going on? There's something happening here. And we realized that what was happening was that her feminine ability, we all have it, men and women, but her feminine ability to feel the earth, to feel the pattern and the pulse, to feel the information and the desire of the living planet for what needs to happen here, what needs to be cleared, what needs to be given birth to. She could feel it and she embodied it but couldn't express it. She used one word, which was all that was needed for the feedback of the environment to say, "You got it." So when I started using my skills to connect and sketch, she was able to feel yes or no. She was able to take that information. So the feminine ability to feel the field and the masculine ability to navigate that and give it structure came together as one synthesis. Of course, we have that capability within each and every one of us, but this was a polar dynamic where two of us were able to come together and create something so much greater than the sum of the parts. I got another minute, guys. So in this case, the masculine, in simplistic terms, is about ideas and inspiration and modeling and defining and expressing and feeling and eventually giving and doing. The feminine is feeling from below. It's feeling that. It's giving birth to it. It's holding it safe. It's nurturing. It's communicating, and maybe it formulates a thought. I mean that with the utmost respect. So in this masculine-feminine dynamic, this polar shift, this movement, this dynamic is profoundly creative. It allows us to feel and connect with the living planet. And the spaces that can come from that can literally connect the heaven and the earth and lead us to generate, manifest, feel and experience paradise on earth. That's it. Thank you.